Hello, everyone. I'm Crack Takes. I'm back here again for UFC Fight Night Vettori versus Dolidze 2. I wanted to make a graphics again like I did for my last video, but sadly I had two midterms this week, so I didn't have the time, and I want to get this video out before Friday, before the weigh-ins, just so my opinions can be out there when people really start to look for their bets and whatnot. Last week was really bad. My literal worst predicting card of all time, but we're going to move past that. We're going to sail by that. Don't watch that. My only comment now on this channel, that's not just me self-glazing in the comments, is a hate comment. And you know what? Like, before I start, if you have hateful comments, if you want to dislike the video, please subscribe. Keep coming back. Keep baiting me. If you think I'm giving you guys good information, please subscribe so you guys can get educated. All right. Now with that call to action out of the way, see that marketing student work in action. We have Younessi Dubin versus Carly Judas, or Judice. I'm gonna say Judas because if I say Judice and it's wrong, I'm gonna look like more of an asshole than the other way around. So Younessi Dubin, 6-0, but like she's fought in the WMMA regional scene, not in Brazil. Like she's fighting in the backwater. Like she's fighting nowhere. She's got all finishes. She then goes on to the Contender Series to fight Shannon Clark, my fellow Canadian, who was the LFA champ, and she was kind of put there to be a sacrificial lamb so the LFA could get another champion into the UFC, because the UFC likes funneling these LFA guys in. And Younessi Dubin hit like the perfect Josh Emmett fake takedown overhand. It's like when you feint low so the person goes to like sprawl, so they come forward, and you like twist your arm over the top. That was not a good showing of it. And she put it right on her chin. It was like the perfect shot, but we haven't really seen anything from her, like regard to her like grappling, even like her technical striking. Because look, she can't get that all the time, and if she can, she'll be the women's goat. She's fighting Judice. She's on a 2-fight skid. She's had like no experience, but you could say that for kind of both of them. And in this 2-fight skid, she's fought pretty great competition. Gabriela Fernandez, she lost some fights in the UFC, but to grapplers, and her striking is phenomenal. And she lost to Ernesta Carrascati on the Contender Series. I butchered that name. But Ernesta Carrascati is very good, so that's not embarrassing. I think Judice is going to win. The line opened up like ridiculously wide in favor of Judice or Judas. I'm fucking up here. But then the lines come closer because people think Dubin is hot and also she has finishes. But I think Judice should look good. She's young. There's a lot of things going for her. Like, I think, you know what, buy the Judas stock now. But the line's way too gone. Wow. I was recording a practice of this, or not a practice, I failed recording like a couple minutes ago, and they didn't have odds up. Now they do. Thank you, UFC. They knew I was coming, and they had to get it straight, right? So now you have Josiane Nunes versus Priscilla Cachoeira, another match of equally as beautiful women. Josiane Nunes, she has like the weirdest measurements. She was fighting at women's featherweight, despite being 5'2" and having a 67-inch reach, which is not crazy. Like she's fighting 145 at a height that would be small even at flyweight. But she's very stocky and she hits very hard, and that's why I think she's going to win this fight. I'm not going to break this one down too much. Priscilla Cachoeira, I feel like she's older fighter, has some losses. I think their game has kind of passed her by, and I know she's been good in the past, but I think it's just gone. The odds are pretty close. I think even on certain books, they're closer than this. So if you can, Josiane Nunes, there's a lot of very wide lines on this card and a lot of favorites. Like almost every fight has like a very heavy favorite. This fight has one of the closer lines, and I think I'm much more comfortable in picking this fight for Nunes than I am some of the fights that have like minus 300, which there are various. So I know we blew through the 2 WMMA fights. Wow, let me check the time. Only 4 minutes. Thank God, because I can get stuck on those fights. We have Daniel Barres versus Andre Lima. Andre Lima, of the fame of getting bit by Igor Severino and getting that tatted. Andre Lima, though, he's more than that. He's got really good Muay Thai kickboxing. He even had, like, I think a small pro kickboxing career. Some people glaze it and talk about how great it was, but it's like, relax. He's still in his 20s. It obviously wasn't that serious, even though I think he did compete at some good level. He's also really good BJJ player. He has Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tatted, I think, on 2 different arms, or on 2 different sides of his body. And in his last fight against Felipe Dos Santos, you really got to see that. Like, Felipe Dos Santos, At first, he kind of had some luck with the takedowns, and then like Andre Lima would just like stuff him and like even have really good moments in those exchanges himself. I don't think he had like very devastating moments, but just like a lot of really powerful control moments where he was the better grappler. But when Felipe was getting his face, there was some problems, but I don't think that'll matter this week because he's fighting Daniel Barez. I'm saying Barez because he's Spanish. My pronunciations are perfecto. Daniel Barez. He's a wrestler from Spain. And essentially, recently, he got into the UFC, lost, then he beat Victor Altamirano, but between the loss and the Victor Altamirano fight, pardon, he got in a bad motorcycle accident, which hurt his neck and head, and it really fucked him up. In the Victor Altamirano fight, Altamirano was having the moments, but then Victor would just get dropped like that, like snap my fingers, he would just get dropped, flash dropped. And despite winning like all the minutes, Barez won. Barez, I don't think if he wants the wrestling, I have no faith in his wrestling. I think that Andre Lima will be able to easily out wrestle him. And in the striking, Andre Lima, he's not exciting. He's not like next week we have Lana Kavanagh at flyweight, who's crazy good and crazy dangerous. Andre Lima isn't. Andre Lima is like the kind of, he comes from the Leon Edwards school of striking, which is keeping that range, kicks, keeps it kind of boring, but it's very effective, and he'll probably end up winning a decision. The odds are pretty wide. This fight was like minus 250, I think, at some point earlier this week, or it was like minus 275, and since then he's like a minus 400 favorite. The value's gone. If you want to fade him, I'd say there's probably still not value on this card for that, even with Daniel Barez being like plus 300. Lima's good, probably going to a decision, probably going to be a little bit lame unless Barez, his injury has affected how he'll take shots and he might get KO'd. But Lima is a pretty clear and obvious pick here. Stephanie Luciano versus Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes is like the JJ Aldrich of women's wrestling. By that I mean she doesn't really do much. She just kind of pushes a pace. She's not that impressive. You're not like watching her work on the mat and you're like, oh my god. Like Jacqueline Amorim, she's kind of crazy on the mat, right? Like Jacqueline Amorim, she'll like really take girls down and look for subs. Sam Hughes is wrestling and she's like, she'll wet blanket you, but like not that effectively, and she'll just kind of smudge you with paste. Stephanie Luciano, I'm pretty sure she's a pretty good kickboxer. She beat Talita Alencar. She went to a draw on the Contender Series where she just kind of got stuffed, and then Alencar, I think, got tired, and then she almost finished Alencar, and then since then she came back and then fought Alencar again, and she had a pretty great showing for herself. I think this is a very similar fight to the Talita Alencar fight. She's young. She's making a lot of improvements. I think Stephanie Luciano is the clear pick for Sam Hughes, but she's minus 250. There is some value there, but I think if you really want to say like a bit of a fuck off dog of the week, I would say it's Sam Hughes, because Sam Hughes, this fight probably goes to a decision. And Sam Hughes, she's a nasty split decisioner, you know, she can take anybody to a split decision. And if it's a split decision, do you want to be holding that like plus 200 bet or the minus 250 bet, right? I know which one I would want. All right. Carlos Vera versus Josias Musasa. This fight is minus 800 for Josias Musasa. That's fucking crazy. Musasa went on the Contender Series against Omar Tanzilovi, who's okay. And Omar Tanzilovi wanted to, I think, test his grappling, unless I'm misremembering. And he essentially took Josias Musasa to a split because Josias Musasa had a little bit more technique than people would give him credit for. But he's one of these new era African fighters who they have like this really great power, great athleticism, but they don't have like the training, right? He's from the Giant of Africa series or promotion, which was in like, I think that was on Netflix, and he had some good showings for himself. Like he has tons of crazy KOs for a bantamweight, but his jiu-jitsu you're worried about. But the fact is now that he's in the UFC, you would think he's getting really good, high quality training partners and lessons, especially because he has so little that everything you teach him now will be taken to heart. And he's a bit of a crazy sized bantamweight. Like he's 5'8", 74-inch reach, and he's like built, right? Like he's in like there are like lightweights like Klein, right? Klein is like the same size as Musasa. Like it's kind of crazy. Musasa though, he's fighting Carlos Vera. Carlos Vera, he's a veteran, 11-4. That's better than I thought his record was from memory. But he's like a sneaky good grappler, has some like okay striking. I was shocked by Musai's, Jesus, Musasa's um, betting line. Like, scroll down here. They didn't have it posted. Because if Vera can get him to the ground, it could get scary, right? We just seen Peyton Talbot not that long ago as a bit of a scary prospect, kind of get wrestle fucked. I don't think he'd get wrestle fucked by Vera, but I think Vera could hit like a sneaky leg lock or something that just Musasa might not have seen yet. There's just a huge experience gap that I'm still picking Josias Musasa by first round KO. Vera's not that good and he's older. But if you're don't put money on this fight. Unless you're picking by KO, don't put money on this fight. If you put money on this fight, you're stupid. Because Musasa hasn't shown anything good enough to imply that he's worth that money. Right? And going on, we now have Su Young Yu versus AJ Cunningham. Su Young Yu versus AJ Cunningham. I think this is weird. This is a fight too where Su Young Yu has a minus 650 price tag on him. It was even wider earlier. AJ Cunningham sucks. So this fight's interesting because Su Young Yu is coming up from bantamweight to featherweight, despite the fact he's not a big bantamweight, right? He's 5'6", 65-inch reach, and he's like, you see that physique? Like, he doesn't look that different in the fights. He's not like huge. He's not small at bantamweight, but he's not big. And he's going up against AJ Cunningham, who sucks. AJ Cunningham is just one of these guys who's not supposed to be in the UFC. He essentially got finished twice by Stephen Wynn on the Contender Series. I think that's the fight you should really be pulling from for this fight, just because that's like a similar thing, because he fought Klein. I forget Klein's first name, but he fought Klein, who's like the lightweight who's surging, Ludovic Klein, who probably should be ranked, and he got KO'd, but Su Young Yu would get killed by Ludovic Klein too. But on the Contender Series, he lost. Every time AJ Cunningham's had a pretty good fighter against him, he's lost. Su Young Yu, I'm a little worried about his size, because he's so small, and he's wrestling from the road to the UFC. And the problem with the road to UFC is that you're fighting Chinese guys and these guys who don't have these great wrestling backgrounds, like pure wrestling. And so this fact that he's a wrestler from maybe a place that might not, from a series that might not have the best wrestling mates, and he's also coming up a weight class where he's going to be smaller. Like, AJ Cunningham's probably seen wrestlers as good as Su Young Yu in the training room. But if you're expecting me to make a crazy dog pick, you're wrong. Su Young Yu's wrestling is still very good. Like, when you watch him against Bergeziu, I can't pronounce the guy's name he fought. It's a travesty. He was taking him down with ease. He was kind of flowing pretty well. Like, he's not as good as like these Japanese wrestlers and grapplers you see, but he's very good. You'll probably be able to take Cunningham down, and even if it's on the feet, Cunningham's chinny. He's not that good. He doesn't really move his head. Cunningham, I don't think he'd win that much at LFA. I think Yu's better than that. I think Yu won't go far. Oh, this is at bantamweight. I thought this was at featherweight. Ooh. Actually, I don't know. This is weird. If it's at bantamweight, Su Young Yu, yeah, wins. At featherweight, I still pick Su Young Yu. Su Young Yu wins overall because he's actually good. AJ Cunningham's bad. I don't think Su Young Yu's going to go like ridiculously far, but AJ Cunningham, he's taking his ass back to Bryce Mitchell's house, maybe go on a podcast with him and talk about the things that they like to talk about on the Bryce Mitchell podcast. Now we have Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Ryan Spann. This is one of the closest fights on the card. Waldo's minus 170, Ryan Spann's plus 140, and I think that's pretty fair. Ryan Spann's coming down from light heavyweight, where he's had like some crazy highlights, like KOing Dominic Reyes, but he's also had some lowlights, like he has 2 losses to Anthony Smith, including a split decision within the last 2 years to Anthony Smith, where he did not look good. But he's fighting Waldo Cortez Acosta. Waldo, he's coming off a win against Robelis, and people were really high on that win at first, and then they saw Austin Lane fight, and they're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be that high on Waldo. Waldo's ranked, though, so there is that. Waldo's only loss in his career is to Budai. I think that's how you pronounce his name, or Budai. Like, the guy who like focuses in only the clinch. Like, you know, you hate Ankalaev. Ankalaev has nothing on Budai. And for this fight, you know, I think a lot of people want to pick Ryan Spann because Ryan Spann has that pretty great submission game. He's got scary power. He's a great athlete. And you see these light heavyweights like Kennedy and Shukwu going up to heavyweight and having success. And Waldo, you know, we don't know how that defensive wrestling might look if Spann wants to test that. And in the striking, you know, they both have bombs. But I think Waldo is going to be my pick. I'm going to tell you why. Kenny Nzechukwu has gone up to heavyweight and had success, but Kenny Nzechukwu like fought bums. Like, I don't want to be rude, but Kenny Nzechukwu like only fought bad heavyweights. Like, I think like Barnett and Dresky. There might be another one in there, but he's not fought good heavyweights. And so I think people were getting really excited about it. Like, he fought arguably the two worst heavyweights. Sorry, Barnett Nation. And he's had success. When Waldo, he's actually a very good heavyweight. He's got scary striking, but it's like very technical. Like, he throws the jab, he'll do a leg kick. He keeps it real, you know. And he also comes in at pretty heavy. And if you look at his physique, for how heavy he's coming in, he's very muscular. I think that if I knew Ryan Spann was just going to try and push him against the fence and shoot for shitty takedowns for the whole fight, I'd probably be a little bit less opinionated on this fight. But I think Waldo Cortez and Ryan Spann are just going to slug it out a bit, probably play the jab game. And Ryan Spann does not succeed at that as much as you would hope. I think that Waldo is just going to be hitting harder. He's going to absorb more. I think sometimes people forget that heavyweight's a bit of a different ball game. And I think Waldo is going to do some work in reminding everybody that how it works up here. Because if you lose to Anthony Smith in a striking duel, Waldo's gonna fuck you. Like, I'm gonna keep talking about this, but Ryan Spann was only a -250 favorite against Ovin St. Preux. They slug it out for a bit. Ryan Spann also gets caught at some points. Ryan Spann throws on the gilly and he wins, and everyone's like, oh my god, is Ryan Spann like the best fighter ever? Is he back? It's like, he subbed a 43 or 42-year-old Ovin St. Preux. Like, get the fuck out of here. Not saying that Ryan Spann sucks, but he's expected to do that. He's kind of fallen off a bit. I'm not very high on him. I think Waldo will do a good job in showing everyone or reminding everyone like what the heavyweights do. I think he's pretty good value on this card too if you're betting. Sungwoo Choi versus Kevin Vallejos. Kevin Vallejos, his only loss is to Jean Silva in a fight where it was a decision. Sungwoo Choi, he's pretty tall. He's talented. Like, he's got good striking, but he's kind of fallen off. He's like one of these fighters who just kind of like dare to kind of get beat up on. In Sungwoo Choi's last fight, he got caught in like a flurry by Haider Emil. And I think Kevin Vallejos, like, damn near pretty similar win against Cam Teague. Cam Teague sucks way worse than Sungwoo Choi, but Vallejos is a way better striker than Haider Emil. I think Kevin Vallejos is probably going to get a finish, probably get it early. I think Sungwoo Choi's cooked. This is sad because he's a pretty cool fighter, but I think there's not really much more to say. Vallejos is a pretty good prospect to keep an eye on. He might look small for the division, but he's like very good fighter. He's part of this, like, I think Argentinian MMA boom we're starting to see a bit with like Ribovics, him, and the girl who won on the Contender Series that Dana didn't sign despite her actually getting a finish. Which was pretty egregious. But yes, Kevin Vallejos, KO, round 1 or 2. Not much more to discuss. Super good prospect. He'll look phenomenal here. His only loss being to John Silva. He's beat hella unbeaten people too. If you look at his record on tap, he's only beat up these like undefeated fighters, which is pretty crazy. Oh, whoops. Brendan Hibero. What a beautiful man. Oh my god. Y'all might have to take the computer from me. I'm too old for this already at my young age. Okay. Sorry, guys. I had a senior moment there. DR Nurjigene, versus Brendan Hibero. For how much anticipation I probably built with that poor clicking around. You'll want to know my breakdown on this. Brendan Hibero's not very good. Brendan got KO'd by Zhang Minyang, got controlled on the mat by Magomed Gadzhistulov, and we just saw how bad his grappling is against Bruno Lopez and DR Nurjigene. And then he lost his last fight, I thought. He won by split. I forget his name because it was like an irrelevant fighter who came down from heavyweight, got fit, and is like then just had the shittiest fight ever. Benson's not very good. DR, he's fought at ACA. He's fought like at some pretty legitimate organizations. Yeah, he's like got pretty dangerous striking. He's one of these Kazakhstanis you see who are coming up like kind of like Shavkat Rakhmonov, who they have like pretty good grappling, pretty great striking, but they're not like super incredible at. I give more credit to Shavkat, but they don't have like the beautiful double legs of the American wrestlers, and they don't have like the super incredible technique and spacing of like the glory guys, but they're pretty well rounded and they're typically like better at everything than a lot of these guys. Like I think against Brendan Hibero, DR Nurjigene, is gonna probably KO him. I don't know how. Could be a high kick, but I think he'll be him. He'll beat him however he wants. I think even if he wants to take it to the mat, but then Beto doesn't defend that. I think DR Nursery by anything. The only way DR doesn't win is that if he ticks out and Vincent catches him when he's having a tick. So I'm gonna bring this up before the fight because if I don't bring it up, it will kill me. DR has the worst tick in MMA. Like I know people sometimes get bothered by the Diego Lopez, like this one, because you're like, is he hurt? DR Nursery, he's like always rubbing his eye, and it makes me want to cry. That rhymed, so it's true. He's always rubbing his eye, like that's his tick. He goes like this, and like when there's a distance, he'll go like that, rub his eye, and it's like it hurt. It makes my eyes water. I don't like that. He's very good though. He's kind of, I'd say, he's gonna go on a run similar to Azamat Mirzakhanov. Pretty great undefeated record, pretty legitimate. He's gonna KO Brenson. Brenson, he's here to lose. I don't know how he still has a contract, considering a lot of the fighters who have been getting cut. Brenson is a bit of a physical specimen, but DR as a fighter, he's a better fighter. Brenson, he's built for the GFL. He's built for the Brazilian regional scene. He's built to lose to these better gyms. So Damon Blackshear, he's almost minus 500 on here. That's kind of crazy, but understandable. Cody Gibson, he had a run in the UFC, lost a bunch, got cut. He's since come back, got a win now. I think he went to the tough final against Katona and lost, and then he lost to Miles Johns. But those losses aren't bad. And then he beat up on Chad and Helliger, which, what does that really say? But he got beat up in that last round of the Chad and Helliger fight, so I think this fight's pretty easy to break down because Damon Blackshear, he's lost quite a few UFC fights, but only to really good comp. Like, he's not lost to bums. Even, like, the Montel Jackson loss, that loss might age badly only because Montel Jackson doesn't ever fight. And if he had fought more, he'd probably end up higher in people's opinions. Like, I think he'd be the people's bantamweight. These guys are very similar. Both guys got pretty good striking. Both guys have pretty good opportunistic subs in wrestling. I just think at this point in their lives, Damon Blackshear is the younger, better everywhere fighter to Cody Gibson. I think he's got better striking, better grappling. I think this fight will take place on the feet. I think if you want to know, like, a sneaky bet would be won by KO. Damon Blackshear, he probably won't shoot for a takedown, but if Cody Gibson does, he'll probably reverse it. He might get a club and sub, but I think that in striking, Damon's better. In the grappling, Damon's better. Everywhere, Damon's better. Cody Gibson, look at their physiques. They're both ridiculously rangy and tall for the division, but Damon's way bigger than him. I think this is like, I don't know. I hope they don't cut Cody Gibson because he's pretty fun. And he's had a bit of a tough career where he's not got the shots he probably should have at the UFC. But Damon Blackshear is going to put him down. Like, that's just tough luck, buddy. Alexander Hernandez versus Kurt Holoba. Alexander Hernandez is minus 200, and I think that's pretty not ridiculous, but that's not good. Alexander Hernandez, he's kind of like a guy who's one of these guys who, like, I don't know, MMA base, who have pretty explosive striking, but like not really great technicality, but like very powerful. He can wrestle at points, but he's not like a great grappler. He's not going to like snatch up some crazy gilly or armbar on you. And he's kind of fights just like a bit of a brawler. Kurt Holoba, he's also a bit of a brawler. He's got pretty decent grappling when you see him have to use it, but typically he likes to slug it out. Like, if you like the Kanan Krzyzewski fight, they're just slugging it out, right? And he beats Kanan Krzyzewski. I think that's a good decision. I think it was a split. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was pretty close anyways. I think the thoughts that some people have is that Alexander Hernandez and Kurt Holoba are going to slug it out, and Alexander Hernandez doesn't have that dog in him like Kurt Holoba. But while you acknowledge that Kurt Holoba is old as shit, and although he literally lives to fight, like Kurt Holoba, I bet you if you ask him in private when nobody's around so nobody can make fun of him, he thinks he's going to be the champion. Alexander Hernandez doesn't think that, and that kind of makes me want to pick a Kurt Holoba, because like if you're picking somebody who still thinks that, like, they still have a long time in the game, they still think they're going to be the next big thing, that means they're probably taking it seriously. But Alexander Hernandez, he's a lot younger, and he's probably got a lot more power, but a lot less volume. I'm going to pick Alexander Hernandez. I'll say I'm picking him because I think that, at some point when you're an older fighter, your chin does go, the skills do go, you slow down, and if you slow down against Alexander Hernandez, who still hits hard even if he's not that good anymore, he'll probably, I don't think he'd put out Holloway, but I think he could like rock Holloway and just kind of end up just beating him up. I think though this fight is very close, I would price this fight at like minus 125 for Alexander Hernandez, because Holloway, he does have a hell of a lot more dog than him, but he's older. Like, look at the lines. Holloway's probably the value bet, but Hernandez is my pick. You guys might have caught on to something. I'm probably going to pick almost every favorite on this card. I can't help it. I'm sorry. The favorites this week are pretty slanted, except for the main card I'll get to. After this, Chidi and Njokuani versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. So this is an interesting fight where Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, he's like built like a lightweight. Like, I feel like he's not that huge for welterweight, like 5'11", and he's muscular and shit, but I don't think he's like, I think Islam Makhachev would probably be bigger than him. I think a lot of the lightweights would be, like Gaethje. Or Poirier would be similar size. And he's fighting Chidi Njokuani, who's like 6'3", 80-inch reach. Like, holy shit. That's kind of freakish at welterweight. That's like Kevin Holland statistics at welterweight. And he's ripped as well. He's big. Like, look at him. He's got muscles. So Chidi Njokuani had a good run at like middleweight where he got some KOs. Then he would like have performances where he would almost get the guy out and then falter late. He's since come down to welterweight where he's beat up on arguably the two worst welterweights, Reese McKee, who's most famous for being a Hamzat victim. Like, I don't think he has a win in the UFC. All he does is he wins at Cage Warriors, gets the promotion to the UFC, and then loses. That's unlucky. And his other win was against Jared Gooden. And Jared Gooden, like, he would just get this like tie clinch on the fence, and Jared Gooden would just like get beat up. He wouldn't really fight out of it. Like, if you watch it back, it's quite bizarre where everyone's like, is Jared Gooden gonna like try to like check that chin? And Jared Gooden is just like, just gets kind of jumped. Like, I don't know how to say it. And they both suck. Elizeu Zaleski, he's very good. All of it, he's still very competitive. Like, in his last fight against Zach Scroggins, yeah, short notice guy, but a young guy smokes his ass. Fight prior to that, he fights Randy Brown, who then got ranked off of that. Very close fight with Randy Brown. Fight before that, fight with what's his name? Renat Fakhodinov. Draw, right? He almost finished Renat in the final round. He's like a solid top 25 welterweight still from what we've seen, but he's 38. I'm going to pick Elizeu Zaleski because I think that he's got good wins. We've not seen that drop off in performance. He's still got power. We still see a lot of things we like from him. When Chidi, it's very tempting to pick Chidi because he's a very powerful striker. He's fast, but he's also old. He's 36. And, you know, he's not looked that inspiring at welterweight. Like, he's winning. He's won 2 in a row, his 2 welterweight fights, but they've both been against guys who I don't think are that good. So, yeah, like, Zaleski's the pick. I don't know. It could be by anything. The money line's a pretty good value if you want to bet it. It's about minus 188 on most books. Now, the main event. This is very interesting here. So, Roman Dolidze and Marvin Vettori had fought before. In that fight, Roman Dolidze totally puts it on Marvin in the first round. Second round, Dolidze slows down, and then Marvin easily wins the second. In the third, very close round where Dolidze then kind of gets back into it. He's trying to like throw some haymakers, land some good ones, but Marvin's much more there with the volume, easily outstrikes Roman, but has lesser moments. Marvin wins that fight, which I do agree with. But now, 2 years down the road, after Marvin then went and got arguably one of the worst beatings we've ever seen against Jared Cannonier, they're back at it. And I almost don't know what to say. I'm almost like left speechless for this fight because Marvin got awfully beat up, then got hurt really, really bad. Word on the street is his shoulder's not recovered and he needs the money, which is fair, you know. He last fought over like a long, long time ago. You need to get paid. He's 31. This is the prime of his career. He needs to get appearances. And Roman Dolidze, he arguably won the first fight. It was very close. But this one's a 5-rounder. So, I think this fight is like dead even. But this whole week I was picking Roman Dolidze. I really was. But then you know what? I'm like, fuck. Roman Dolidze, if I thought he was going to shoot a takedown and like really kind of stress that out, that like injury out, I think, yeah, Roman would be the pick. But Roman doesn't shoot takedowns. Roman is a talented grappler, but he gets overglazed on that. He's very good, but he's overrated. but he can't really shoot great takedowns. He's not a great wrestler, and he's a heavy hitter, but he's pretty slow. And Vettori, he's a 5-round beast, right? Like, he comes, victim Vettori, mediocre Marvin. He's stupid as fuck. That's why he, his head's got like an inserted like airbags for punches. But he's got a good pace, and he's gonna push that jab out. He's gonna push those leg kicks out. He's gonna make it a tough fight for Roman. I think this fight's gonna be interesting because I think either Vettori gets KO'd early, which is hard to see. He aggravates that injury, so maybe he has a shittier fight, or he, I don't know, like aggravates it so bad he's out of the fight, or he loses round 1, maybe round 2, and then wins the back half of the fight in the championship rounds. So my pick is going to be Marvin Vettori, but I think the value is on Roman, just as I think this fight's perfectly even. Dolidze, we haven't seen much change from him, but he's had wins recently, and sometimes when you have that momentum and you're fighting a guy like Marvin, who just has a lot of question marks, you want to pick Dolidze. But having watched that first fight back, knowing who Dolidze is, I'm not confident we're going to see a switch. I'm not confident he's going to look good at the end of the 5 rounds, when I know that Marvin will look good at the end of the 5 rounds. He's still going to be there. So really quickly, I'm going to go over my picks. I picked every favorite on the card, but I did advise some dogs. Carly, Josiane, good value. Andre Lima, Stephanie, Pusasa, Su Young-yu, Waldo, Vallejos, DR, Damon, Alexander Hernandez, but by such a close margin. I'm just picking him because he's so much younger. And I'm not impressed by Kurt Hellbaugh too much. Elizu and Marvin. So, if you guys liked my predictions, I'm going to do this weekly. Next week, I'll try to have better graphics. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a good weekend, and have fun watching the fights.